Good morning, everybody. Hope everybody is doing well. Just gonna give it a second for it to load up, for folks to get in to the stream. Alright, this is morning prep for Thursday, March 31st. We've come to the end of March. Tomorrow will be the 1st of April, April Fool's Day. Market loves to trick us on that day. But let's start digging into what we have in store for today. Been on a nice run and drew a trend line from the lows that has been carrying us. Every time we hit it, we bounce, we hit it, we bounce, we hit it, we bounce. Yesterday, even though we had some selling, it stopped right at that trend line at the same time that the 2-hour squeeze started to form. So it tapped there, popped up, closed near VWAP. Now, this morning, we are still in that 2-hour squeeze, and we are tapping that trend line and catching a little bounce. We do have our 30-minute Ichimoku that is very thin and flat today, right at this 4601, basically your 4600, right? We have our trend line from the lows from the last week or so, and the squeeze bottom right at this big key zone. I talked about it in the past, but this key zone is what we've sold off from before the whole invasion and Ukraine issue. We have finally fought back up to that zone. We kind of gapped through it, and we have been tapping it and tapping it, but not really heading higher. We are approaching the top of a 2-day squeeze. The daily already fired, and now we're coming up on a 2-day squeeze that is getting thinner and thinner and looking to fire to the upside as well. The top of that 2-day squeeze is up near 4660, so we have to definitely take off through this week's highs and this 2-hour squeeze top in order to go tap the 2-day squeeze top. So just for an outlook to the upside. That's also on the journey to the third ATR up. But right now we are close to the second ATR, which we pretty much rejected yesterday. And now the second ATR, or second Keltner, is up near the top of this 1 hour and mainly the 1 hour squeeze, the 2 hour is above. So, pretty simple today. If we can continue to hold this squeeze bottom, this key 4590, this zone, we can continue to move higher. But for comparison, the 30-minute Ichimoku is a great gauge for a trend continuing or reversing. We slipped through it back here, and then we came up on being underneath it with a flat top, and we ripped through it. So that's kind of a comparison of what we would like to see today for upside. We are starting to slip below it with a flat top. So we need to get above 4600 to continue this trend up to test this week's highs, this Keltner, and the squeeze tops. If we stay below 4,600 and we break this trend line, we will be going to visit this zone. Should we start to slip out of this zone, we are most likely going to see the daily 8. We closed basically where we are, 45.96. One ATR and ES can easily get us back to the daily 8. So, kind of a key point. This is the last day of the month. It doesn't necessarily mean we have to rip or drop. We could just squeeze right here where they've been kind of pinning us at 4,600. We are in the middle of these squeezes today, so basically we're just going to be looking to play off the squeezes. If we can hold the bottom, cash session, and start to get going, I'll be playing longs. If we pop up too fast and we're hitting the top and not getting through, I'll be looking to short back. But basically just playing off of the tops and bottoms of the squeezes. But overall, nice bull flag. So let's see. Can we get above this 1 hour squeeze? Daily Keltner, take out this week's high to keep on trucking up to this 2 hours or two day squeeze top? Or do we lose the 30-minute Ichimoku, this trend line, and fire this 2 hour squeeze down to go get the daily 8? Each scenario is likely. In Q. Pretty similar. We've been on a nice uptrend. Even on the day that we did slip below 30-minute Ichimoku, the next day hit squeeze bottom and rip right back through. So kind of the same thing. We slipped through yesterday. We need to hold squeeze bottom and rip through. Otherwise, we will fire down to the daily 8. For NQ, we haven't tapped the daily 8 since way back. And since then, we have just been pushing higher and have not gone back to retest it. So that's the first reversion of the mean, right? And we do have POC apparently still way back down below the daily 8, a lot closer to the daily mean. So let's see what we get there. And on ES, I'm sorry, I forgot to cover. POC is down at 44.65, which puts you right back down near the daily mean. Moving on to a ready. The ready yesterday hit this 2-day squeeze top. It's also in a daily squeeze, although it's saying the daily squeeze is starting to fire up, so I bumped this up to a 2-day. It opened in that 2-day squeeze top. It also had some smaller time frame squeezes reject the top, came down to the daily 8, so we already had one index do a reversion to the mean, to the daily 8 mean at least. Because it is basically a 2-day journey to get back to the full mean. So ready could be a great gauge today as well. If it loses the daily 8, it could be heading straight down to the daily mean, and it will be the first index going, so just kind of give us a heads up. But if we can hold the daily 8 and bounce and get back up to this 2100 and 30-minute Ichimoku, the party can continue. YM. Very tight squeeze going on with YM, even though it's sold off 2 days in a row, kind of. I mean, it did rebound, one of them. Now that we are above the daily 200 and the daily 8, which are now creating a nice zone, we haven't gone to tap them. We bounced before we got there. So, let's see. Kind of the same thing. This 30-minute Ichimoku, nice and flat, right at about 35,100. Cutting right through the middle of this squeeze. Already starting to fight above it now. So, can we hold squeeze bottom? And we've got these lows from the last 2 days. So let's see if we can hold squeeze bottom and these lows to get going through this 30-minute Ichimoku up to this week's highs and squeeze tops to fire up. YM is wedging, so draw your trend line from the highs and from these lows, because it is going to come to a point today. If it does start to, or keep rejecting the 30-minute Ichimoku and stay below this 35,100, we could be going through the squeeze bottom, back down to the daily 200 and daily 8, creating a nice zone below. And it looks like Paca's still way back down with the mean. Apple. Apple, as I say every day, is a great gauge for tech. It is in its 30-minute Ichimoku, which spans the entire squeeze today. So basically, if we can stay above this 177.40, Apple can get up. Apple can get up to the top of the squeezes, this week's highs, and fire these squeezes up in an effort to get to the third Keltner up at 181 and this psychological 180. But if we keep rejecting these highs, the squeeze top will fall through 30-minute Ichimoku and below that 177.40. We could start to get down to 177, 176. Should this fire down, we have the daily 8 down at 173. AMD. Pretty weak yesterday. Already back to the daily 8. And overnight, while a number of things were kind of gapping up, AMD is further down. It is right down at the bottom of this 4-hour squeeze. Kind of tapping it and bouncing this morning. And it's right at the daily mean. So, let's see. Now that we've basically had a reversion to the mean, let's see if AMD holds there, right at around 115. Lowest I would allow it to go is that 114.5, which looks like the daily 15 is going to arrive there today. Going that low to tap that kind of shores up all the liquidity levels. So definitely looking for a bounce at 114.5 up to 116. On a bid to get back to this 30-minute top, or 30-minute Ichimoku and this 122.50. Amazon. Amazon below its 30-minute Ichimoku. I want to see it hold this 33.10 to start making its way back through this flat Ichimoku at around 33.55 in an effort to get back to 3400 and the third Keltner at 34.50. Cat is in a very tight, what is this, 2-day squeeze, I'm guessing. 4-hour squeeze. Not a huge interest in Cat, but it's definitely been moving a lot lately. But basically, if we can hold this trend line from yesterday, and around this 222, 221.5, can keep going up to retest the highs around 225. CRM, also not a huge interest, but it did get the version to the daily 8 and getting the bounce. Facebook. Been on a strong drive. Yeah, it's worth noting when we get a bunch of stacked squeezes like this, if you go back and look at those days, we tend to get hung up at them, and then as they open up, we can start to move. We tend to get hung up at them. As they start to open up, we move. So when we have them stacked and thick like this, you know, we shouldn't not maybe necessarily expect them to break out of that until they get thin and open up, which usually means grinding along it to get it to open up. So we'll see on Facebook today. Again, 30-minute Ichimoku basically spans this squeeze. So let's see if we can hold up 226. This squeeze bottom at, this Ichimoku bottom at around 227. Head back up to 230, 231. The daily 50 at 232.75. And the third Keltner up at 239. If we fire to the downside, we've got the daily 8 and the daily 21 just below. So, definitely look at these 220, 215 puts, as well as the 230, 235s, 240s. Google has not done much in the last couple of days, pretty much just sideways. We now have this big flat bottom Ichimoku at 28.36. So I want to see it hold up above that to get up to these squeeze tops. Weeks high to keep on trucking, and next Keltner back up at this 29.25. If we keep under this 24.36 and keep rejecting, we might head right back to 2800. The daily 8, should we lose that, we've got the daily 15, 200, and 21 all right down below near 27.50. Microsoft. Nice and strong. Its 30-minute Ichimoku is not red, and we are not underneath it. It is above it. So overall, trying to lead. Let's see if it continues and stays above. If it starts to give out, it could lend to the downside for names that are already under their 30-minute Ichimoku. Want to see it, Microsoft stay above this 312. This start making its way to 316, 318, 320. Below 312, it's going to revisit 310, 306, 307, back at this daily 8. And the daily 200, back at 303, 304. Netflix had a nice strong day. Tuesday, gave it back, made it to the daily 8. Catching the bounce. So let's see if the daily 8 and the daily 21 around 375, 378 can keep us up to start getting back through this 30-minute Ichimoku back to 390, 400. And if we give these up and give up 380, we could be headed back to 375 and maybe as low as 370. And POC is currently at 382, so we're going to open right near POC. NVIDIA. And it rejected this 2-day squeeze as it was tapping the top. Having a little pullback from the second Keltner, almost down to the first, where the daily 8 is also lying. So on NVIDIA, if we can hold the daily 8 and the squeeze bottom, we can make our way back to this 30-minute Ichimoku and this key 285.25, which we haven't been able to get back above really. Basically meaning we have a big seller sitting there at that 285.25. We gapped above it, seller stepped in, and then as we try to get up and tap it, seller stepped in. So let's see if we can get up there today. If seller steps in, it's right at about the top of that 30-minute Ichimoku, so we could fight up to that and then end up coming back, unless we can get through that wall and keep on going. Qs, just like everything, tight squeeze today and sitting right on the daily 200. So we could just have a day where NQ and the Qs just chop around the daily 200 in the middle of these squeezes and starts to push or slowly grind in one direction. But if we can hold 367, we can, and 368, this 30-minute Ichimoku, in the daily 200, we can start to push higher to this week's highs and beyond. Should we give up this squeeze bottom and yesterday's low, we could be headed back to the daily 8, which is now aligned with 360. With an ATR of 8, we can easily get back there. So keep an eye on that today. Roku. Had a much stronger day yesterday had a strong day on Tuesday. Yesterday it was holding up nicely and holding up maybe a little better than Netflix, but then it gave out, and once it made that H, it just ripped through 30-minute Ichimoku, and now it's pulling up underneath it. So, no real squeezes intact on Roku. Use the 30-minute Ichimoku as a guide. If we can't get above 131 to 132, we could be headed back to the daily 8, daily mean, and POC, which is at 125.5, right at about here. So 3 huge targets down below. If we can't get through this 130, we'll probably go into 125. But if we can get through this 131 at this Ichimoku bottom, we could work our way back up to the highs and the daily 50 up above. Chop chop. Wedge on shop. Right at the daily 8. Gave it a tap yesterday. So let's see if that can give it support. If Ecom can run, basically it looks like if we get over about 710, 712 after open, we'll be firing this wedge to the upside. As long as we get through this Ichimoku 715, 720-ish, if we can get through that, we can most likely get up to the daily 50 at 750. If we keep rejecting this 30-minute Ichimoku, we could be headed back to 685, where the daily 21 is 657. Yeah, this week's lows at 670. Let's see. SPX. We have bounced at this trend line and bounced at this trend line and slipped for a second, but bounced and bounced. So, trend line starting to take off through recent highs today. So we could be giving up this trend line, or at least we could go sideways through it. But basically got the daily 8 down below with this Keltner. daily 200. So we've got some clear downside targets to the upside, 46.40, 46.50, and 46.70 at the third Keltner. SPY. Wedge, pretty tight. Right in this pretty tight squeeze as well. So let's see. Can SPY hold up 458 to keep trucking up through 30-minute Ichimoku at around 459, 460.25 key level right near these squeezed tops. Basically it's like if 458 can hold, I'll be going long off of that. Once we get to 460, I'll be locking up and looking to go short. Square's been moving nicely lately. Big old drops, big old pops. Each day I've been starting to notice that Square's moving nice. I'm going to start playing it a little more. We've kind of got a trend line from the lows that we're testing. I mean, we're technically a little bit through it, but if you adjust it, you can connect over here. On Square, let's see if we can hold this 139. And got a squeeze bottom right around there to get back through this 140 and trek back up to the highs at 150. If we start to give out this squeeze bottom at 139, 138, we've got the daily 8 at 136 and two moving averages that are about to cross each other at 126. Sometimes when moving averages cross each other, they become a strong magnet and we go to visit them. So should Square stay under 30-minute Ichimoku and give out the daily 8, and around this 137, we could accelerate right back down to 130, 128, 126-ish. On Square, Tesla. Gap up on stock split rumor, and then nothing, and nothing, and nothing, and squeeze tighter, 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 tighter. So we should maybe not expect too much out of Tesla today. It could be tightly held in a 20-point range, bouncing back and forth like it was yesterday. And it's in a wedge, so draw your wedge. Once something starts to break, upside or down, we'll know at least which one it's going to go try to test and grind through. And last but not least, let's look at VIX. As VIX is trapped between 18 and 22, 18 and 20. Didn't quite get down to 18 on the lows yet. We did get back to 20 yesterday and a hair above, but then rejected below it. We are already gotten a little bit above it today and then back below it. We've got a squeeze top right around 2030. So let's see if VIX tries to come back above 20. Can it get above this 2030 squeeze top? Or does it reject, go back below 20, allowing market to go higher as it goes back to retest this week's lows? And we now have this 2-hour squeeze bottom at just a hair outside the lows at 1826. So let's see. Hopefully VIX can reject highs from yesterday, squeeze top, get back below 20 to allow us to go to the upside. But that's it. Hopefully this was helpful for everybody, and we'll see you in the trading room. Good luck today.